Hello. This video presentation is on solving quadratic equations by completing the square with fractions. This is going to be a little more complicated for some people, but if you relax and tell yourself fractions are your friend, this really won't be bad. I promise. All right, first of all, in the last video, I wrote this step in here, and we have to divide everything, all terms, by the leading coefficient. Before that, we had the first step was move the constant to other side. We have to do these both. The order does not matter. I need my linear term. I lost my pen. I need my linear term and my quadratic, this one and this one, on the left-hand side. And I need my constant, this guy right here, on the other side. And this guy has to be over here. So I'm going to add 4 plus 4 plus 4. I'm going to subtract 4x minus 4x and minus 4x to both sides. That's going to give me 3x squared, 3x squared minus 4x equals 4. And now I'm going to divide everything by 3. And I write it down every time. That gives me x squared minus 4/3 x plus something equals 4/3 plus something. Now this is the only part that's a little bit confusing for people. We have to take half of 4/3. Well, you should be able to do it in your head. Half of 4 is 2. So we end up with 2/3. But it won't always be that easy. Half of 4/3 is like multiplying by 1/2. And when we multiply, before we multiply, we cancel if we can, and we get 2/3. We then have to square 2/3. 2/3 squared is 2/3 times 2/3, which is 4/9. So we add 4/9 to both sides. Then we have to factor. Well, I'm going to write something down that's not part of this problem just to refresh our memory. But when we factored before, if we had x squared minus 4x equals 1, and we said plus something, and let's change that to a 6, just to make it a little bit more understanding. Minus 6x. Half of 6 is 3, and we squared it and went here and there. So we had 9 and 9. Then we said that we had x minus 3 squared, because 3 times 3 is 9. Well, when we factor this, it's going to be the same thing. We said 3 times 3 is 9, so we put a 3 here. 2/3 times 2/3 is 4/9. When we factor, we're going to use 2/3, just like we used. The number we squared here went here. All right, let me erase this. All right, so we're going to factor, and we have x minus 2/3 quantity squared equals, and I need a common denominator to add my fractions. So I multiply by 3 and 3. So 4 times 3 is 12, plus 4 is 16, equals 16/9. Now, just like before, we're going to take the square root of both sides. And we have plus and minus. On the left-hand side, x minus 2/3. And on the right-hand side, plus or minus, we take the square root of the top, 4, and the square root of the bottom, 3. We haven't done square roots with fractions, but they'll just be that simple. And then we have add 2/3 to both sides, and we have x equals 2/3 plus or minus 4/3. That means 2/3 plus 4/3 and 2/3 minus 4/3, which is equal to, and we're almost done, 6/3 or 2 and negative 2/3. And we are done. All right? Easy peasy. Let's just review this. We put it in the proper order. The quadratic and the linear on one side, constant on the other, divided like yesterday by the leading coefficient. We took half of this coefficient, half of 4/3, which we got by multiplying by 1/2, and we squared it. This number then, 2/3, went here because 2/3 times 2/3 is 4/9. Take the square root of both sides with our plus minus, and we're good to go. All right, let's do one more, and this one will go a little bit faster. All right. We have to put this in the proper order, so we're going to subtract 1. So we have 3x squared, I'll write it, minus 1, gives us 3x squared minus 5x equals negative 1, and we divide by my leading coefficient, giving me x squared minus 5/3 x plus something equals negative 1/3 plus something. Now, what I would like you to do is pause the video and try to do this on your own. And try to work ahead of the video, and then come back and check it. Did you pause? All right, I'm glad you did. All right, negative 5/3. We take half of 5/3, doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. We multiply by 1/2, nothing cancels, I get 5/6. I square 5/6. 5 times 5 is 25, 6 times 6 is 36. So we add 25, 36, plus 25, 36. Now, when we factor, because this is a minus, we need a minus here. And because we got 25 over 36 by squaring 5 over 6, it's minus 5 over 6. Equals, I need a common denominator, multiply by 12, multiply by 12, and I get negative 12 plus 25 is 13 over 36. I then square root both sides, Make sure you show this. Plus or minus. And I end up with, I am so sorry, I forgot the squared here. Don't forget that squared. I end up with x minus 5 over 6 equals plus or minus square root of 13. I can't take that square root. But 36 we know is 6. Then I add 5/6 to both sides. And I end up, my final answer, x equals 5 plus or minus square root of 13 over 6. Because I have a common denominator here and here, I just add the numerators. And I'm done. So my final answer is 5 plus or minus square root of 13 over 6. All right, that's it for completing the square. It really doesn't get more complicated than that. Talk to you later. Have a good one.